Hi everyone. Again, happy Friday. Thanks for coming along to early detection of deterioration. And my name's Gina Ingerell from Effective Policy and Compliance. And today we're going to do a bit of a session on deterioration, detecting it, communicating it, and show you a bit of a tool that can help you to do that in day-to-day service delivery. As I say, we will have people coming in. There's about 45 people registered, so who knows? But we shouldn't get any disturbance, so that's a good thing too. Terrific. So just a show of hands for people who are here. Is anyone here aged care, or is everyone here NDIS? So anyone here aged care or home care? Looks like everyone's NDIS. Okay, terrific. Oh, no, two. The aged care or home care. Lovely, lovely. All right, all right. Well, let's crack on. So what I'll do is share screen. Now it looks like at the moment there's only like 11 people in the room, so I'm quite happy for questions along the way. When we've got a large amount of people, it is often a little bit harder to do that. So yeah, by all means, ask questions as we go. So just forgive me for a second while I come back. Share screen. Looks like you're looking at my desktop. I think so. Let's share. And the document that I want to start with, just a little bit of a talk through of a PowerPoint. So what we've developed is this tool. It's called the Stop and Watch tool. And it just makes it easier for small providers and medium-sized providers who aren't running off some, incredibly sophisticated piece of software to be able to manage that, detecting and reporting of deterioration. If we look at the reasons for preventable deaths in NDIS and aged care, it comes down to in many cases the absence of detection of the signs of deterioration. I mean, for our most publicized case, of course, that's Anne-Marie Smith. And there are a number of competing reasons for why what happened to Anne-Marie happened. But one of the primary causes for that was an inability to detect deterioration and report on that deterioration. I'd say detect the deterioration first, most primarily. So let's have a look. So the point of the exercise is, of course, I don't know, you could be from all different backgrounds and positions, like some of you might come from health sector, some of you may not. So we'll just speak generally and candidly to make sure that it makes sense to everybody. So we'll talk about the NDIS quality and safety standards and the aged care standards both talk about the idea of assessing, monitoring, assessing, reporting. So it's a real cycle of steps that need to be taken. So we need to assess and monitor, assess and monitor. Now, we with the new rendition of the aged care standards in July 2019, the words monitor and review came into play. They were not in the former standards, which were only 4 standards, to be honest, and so were the NDIS standards before July 2019. They both had only 4 standards in them. So they were an incredibly light touch, pretty useless in the world of quality and safety standards. So from 2019, both of those standards became more robust. And in the aged care, it became monitor and review. And, there was a lot more emphasis in NDIS on review, assess and review, assess and review. So they both use different tools and language, but the outcomes and the reasons for what they're doing remain the same. So we want to have a way that can be systemized to be able to detect and communicate signs of deterioration before they get to the point where somebody becomes seriously ill or irreversibly unwell, as we've seen in some of the more publicized cases. And often this will come down to some very specific areas, of course, which are around pressure sore and wound care, and, even mental health and, those sorts of cases are probably most prominent. So let's have a look. I think we'll skip back here and we'll just do a bit of, we'll start from here. So this tool focuses on, as I said, something that's affordable and easy to use and doesn't require a sophisticated software system, because that's not always an option for small to medium providers. And we never want to see the small providers disappear out of the market, because there's a number of people out there who don't want to become large, and they're doing a really good job doing what they're doing, and they're contributing to the variety, the diversity, the ability for people to choose who they want to go to. If they feel that they're just a number with a big organization, it's nice to have a smaller option to go to. So we call it the stop and watch tool. So it was developed in the UK initially. And so it comes down to, okay, well, here's a tool. So let's learn how to use it to your client's benefit. I'll just put it into present mode. I just want to double check, because I have been known to talk and not have the screen sharing. Can I have a thumbs up from someone just to let me know that you are seeing this PowerPoint that I'm talking to? Thank you. Alrighty, so how to use a stop and watch tool that's spotting the signs of deterioration and taking action early really does make a difference. Who knows what would have happened if somebody had spotted the signs of deterioration with Anne-Marie Smith and some of those other people that we've heard about throughout the last 5 years. Just going to make this scroll over to the next thing. So when do we use a stop and watch tool? So the stop and watch tool is used when a person is not their usual self. So what happens is we're working with people. It's, we don't have to use stop and watch as a every day with every person on every shift when someone is not their usual self. So it's important that people focus on, well, what is this person's usual self? And you do get to know somebody. Now, you will have staff who don't know. There'll be times when staff don't know a person, so it might take them some time to get to know them. But if you, as managers and business owners, can focus on a language of your staff getting to know a person and knowing what their usual self is, yeah? So I think if we start to focus around that language of, getting to know that person and what is usual for them, okay? So the tool supports care staff to, 1, recognize, and 2, respond to people becoming unwell. And I might add that this tool, as easy to use and as simplistic as it is used by health professionals as well, nurses, in hospital situations as well. So it might be simple, but it's so simple that it works, and it works for a lot of people. So what we've done is redesign something that was a bit difficult to use into something that is a lot easier to use. So we've got two varieties of it, just for, I guess, personal preference. The stop and watch early warning signs tool. So it spells out stop and watch, just different colors. And each letter has, let me see if I can just increase the magnification of this. Goodness, goodness, goodness. Let me see. Not sure that I can. It's probably my eyes more than you guys that aren't seeing. Oh, here we are, magnifying glass. Yeah, so we've got a letter has an observation. So, S seems different to usual. That's so easy to understand. T, talks or communicates less. O, overall needs more help. P, pain, new or worsening, participating less in activities. A, ate less, reduced appetite for 48 hours. N, no bowel movement. Okay, bit heavy-handed. There we go. No bowel movement for 3 days. D, drinking less than usual. W, weight changes. A, agitated, more nervous or anxious than usual. T, tired, weak, confused or drowsy. C, change in skin color or skin condition. H, help needed walking, transferring or toileting more than usual. So these are the primary observations. And we have two forms that, one is you put a tick in a box. The other one is circling it. Depends on what people's preferences are. But these are the observations that absolutely save lives and save hospitalizations and promote quality of life as well. So that's the tool. But then what do we do with it? So I just got to move these out of my way. So mostly we've got frontline workers, mostly. The large percentage of people on the front line are support workers. And so as support workers, team leaders, managers, or business owners, we need to be able to recognise and respond to deterioration or changes in all participants or clients. And clients are referred to for aged care. The important process is to grasp when focusing on recognising the early warning signs for deterioration is observe, document, and communicate. Okay, observe. So people have to be taught observation. People need also to be taught that's part of their job. So there'll be a lot of people, and you will be dealing with this, as I did as a manager myself. You will be dealing with some people who are not really there because they care about their job. So we really have to bring home what their responsibilities are. And we do that through position descriptions, through employment contracts, through supervision, and through role modeling observation. Role modeling is one of the strongest ways and the best ways to teach people to deliver services or perform their job in a way in which we want them to. But repetition, even more. So repetition, 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 talking about it, each time you see them, making it part of your staff meeting language, your supervision language, your day-to-day language when you have interactions. So teaching people that their job is to observe, to document, and then communicate that, what their observations were. Yeah. So that's incredibly important. And if we don't embed that from employment onwards, then we're not going to see it working in our services. So make that a part of what you go away after watching this. Make that a part of your business as usual as a care and support business. So detecting those early warning signs of deterioration. We observe. You can teach I'm showing this to you, but I want you to take this away, of course, and work it continually in the onboarding and maybe re-onboarding or every now and then, in services or training, but definitely at onboarding of your staff. Um, take this along and really embed this in your organization and in your staff's a journey as a support worker or manager or team leader. So observing we can do through seeing, hearing, smelling, and touch. Okay. Anyone here want to give me an example of what we might, I'm pretty sure you'll know what you're going to see. Well, we could actually always just, if you want to take your microphones off and first of all, put your microphones on so you can speak. Who wants to tell me what you might smell? What's an observation that you might smell?
Food.
Say it again.
Food.
Food. Yeah. How how is that going to assist in the detection of
Oh,
deterioration?
sorry, I thought it meant in general.
No, that's okay.
I
No,
guess like poor hygiene.
no worries at all. So we've got say that again.
I guess in observing someone, it would be like poor hygiene, maybe.
Yes. Yes. Their hygiene is not what it was the day before and the day before that and the day before that. What about hearing? Everybody, please have a go.
You can generally hear when someone's speech is declining or they're having more episodes of speech swallow issues.
Yes, you can hear that, can't you? You can hear someone gurgling. You could hear somebody slopping their food. You could hear when their ability to enunciate their words has changed, and you can hear an absence of words with
What about
smelling.
what about memory loss?
Yes, yes, absolutely. That would be something that we would see and hear. Well, maybe more here, but definitely. Thank you. A lovely one. Just going to try this. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Looks like my system's not working. Okay. So that's good. We've got seeing, we've got hearing. What can we smell that might tell us there's deterioration with somebody we're caring for?
Body odors. They might incontinence, which could.
Yes. Yes, but there might be incontinence where there never was. Yeah.
Mm.
So maybe this person has had absolutely no incontinence, and then wow, one day you smell incontinence, whether it's fecal or whether it's urine. Yeah. What else might you smell? And this is really important to teach support workers.
Infection.
Yes, you might smell infection. Where might those infections be? Most likely, like
Feet, like feet, pressure from sores and things.
yes. Yep. You may have someone who already has pressure sore management. You may have someone who has a wound. You may notice smells that you didn't notice before, and you want your staff noticing these things. You may also have, there may be no detected pressure sores at one point, and then there's a smell. Wow, I've not smelt that before. Some people are better at smelling than others. I find my sense of smell isn't as good as it used to be, and it used to be really good. Now, that's not the case for everybody. There are people my age who can still smell like I don't know what's a good smelling animal, but for me, my sense of smell has declined a little bit, which is unfortunate. But there's one other place in the body that you might smell something from. And it's one sure sign of some infection happening or a decline in somebody's self-care.
I thought maybe either bad breath
Yes.
or maybe under the armpits as well.
Yeah. Armpits will be a self-care thing. And then breath, absolutely breath. So if we are smelling, like we got levels of bad breath. I was an oral health clinician a very, very long time ago. So we've got levels of breath. There's bad breath, and then there's halitosis, which is severe, extreme bad breath. At some levels it can mean a poor hygiene. At other levels, it could be that there's gum disease, periodontal disease going on. And at other levels, it means that there's gastric things going on as well. Okay. So these are our powers of observation. One more thing is, of course, touch. Who can tell me what are some examples that you might observe as a support worker? Or you want because you've got to remember, I don't know who in here is a support worker, but you're probably mostly, I don't know, team leaders and managers, perhaps. Your support workers are your eyes and ears. The more information you can extract from them, the more that you can get them to notice what you need them to notice and to document that and report that. And that documenting and reporting can be, all in the same thing. The more you can get from them, the more you are managing the governance, risk, compliance, and quality of your service that you're delivering, and the safer your people are going to be, the people you care for. Okay. So if you put yourself in the position of, like a nurse who's got a task to do, they would go in and they would feel something because that's what they do. They might be palpating something and they feel it. But support workers aren't palpating, right? That's not something that's usually in their remit as a support worker. So they go in to do their job. What is it that support workers might do that they may have the opportunity to feel something?
Shower assistance.
Yep.
Cold
They may
feet,
feel lumps. They may feel swelling. Yep.
lack of circulation, cold feet,
Yep. So
warm or hot skin, infection.
yeah, because knowing the signs of inflammation is a really fabulous thing to teach a support worker. I think the first thing we learn, one of the first things we learned as dental clinicians was, what are the signs of inflammation? Redness, pain, swelling. It's not a bad thing to make sure people understand that. And if you've got, a PowerPoint like this that you give people at onboarding, you're improving your service delivery. You're equipping your staff to be able to deliver to you what you need them to deliver. And you're going to help improve people's quality of lives, because the amount of people we see in discomfort when we audit in many places is astounding. That people are just not able to recognize because they do not have the skill and they haven't had the education to understand, looking out for these things in relation to people. And their wellness. So we're wanting quality of life above everything else, not just a bit of care, quality of life. We don't want people to have to sit in pain and deteriorate. So yeah, lovely. So we observe with that. When we observe something and it's out of the ordinary, there are some, there are some times where someone could be palliative and they are going to have some of these things, but we can be watching and listening and, have our senses all working about whether it's unreasonable for that situation, So then we really come back very strongly to what is their usual self. So getting people to focus on, understand what that person's usual is. What's their usual? Yeah, what's their baseline? And are they a long way from their baseline? And let's write it down. And when it comes to writing it down, that's not an optional extra. That's not something that a support worker is doing because they're being good. You gotta let them know that's their job. You let them know within their position descriptions, in their contract, within their supervision. Same deal within your staff meetings, within the way you absolutely role model that. So if people understood that it was part of their job to document, not an optional extra, we'd all see a great big improvement in documentation. And I am very much with the strategy of it takes time. Nobody expects them to do it after their shift has finished. You finish your shift 5 or 10 minutes earlier to be able to do that documenting. And if a participant has a whingy whine about that, you just tell you help them, or you help your support workers to be able to manage that, or you manage it yourself. Putting down notes about what happened is part of our job, and it's part of the hour that you have with us. So if it's 55 minutes because we have 5 minutes of notes to write, then that's what it is. No apologies, because you don't get an apology from the psychologist that you see who sees you for 50 minutes or 55 minutes, or the OT who sees you for 50 minutes or 55 minutes. Everyone deserves that. It's part of the job. So be really clear about your rights as providers and managers, and then helping support workers to understand their obligations and their rights to be able to take that 5 minutes. They may need your support if a participant is going to get difficult with them. But most of the time, people are pretty good with it. But, every now and then, support workers can get bullied. So then we've observed, we document, and we're going to communicate it. So you know what? If we took away number 3, it's a bit like my analogy of risk assessment. If you do a beautiful risk assessment on someone and then you don't put it into some sort of a monitoring system, whether that's a register with a date that reminds you, or an appointment scheduled in 3 months to look at it again, or a software system, you may as well take that risk assessment, scrumple it up, and put it in the nearest waste paper basket. And the same thing goes for these observations and the documenting of those observations. It doesn't work without number 3. Somebody, somewhere, with some ability to make critical decisions, critical reasoning decisions, or clinical reasoning decisions, needs to know. Okay? So even if you're only viewing these observations that have been recorded because there's been a change that this person's noticed from that usual self, your eyes need to come across it. I'm just talking to you like you are managers and team leaders, so I'll just continue that way. And business owners. So you need to know, even if it's just for you, I'll just watch. I'll just see how this goes. And then if it happens again and again, at least it's on your radar, and and you're in the know, it's in your system, you're able to be aware, watch yourself, okay? So it's important that we have this communication. 1, 2, and 3 work together. 1 on its own is not good enough. We do need to document it, because you won't have the same person on all the time. It's got to be written down. It can't be just passed on verbally to anybody. So observe, document, and communicate. I've already said this. Without each of the 3 principles for implementation, this process isn't complete. If you observe deterioration, you must then document this change and communicate it to somebody. And, it should be a supervisor, okay? What do we mean by not their usual self? The answer to this question, let's start with the word deterioration, okay? So this PowerPoint is available if you want to buy it afterwards, because you can use it for onboarding all your staff. What do we mean by not their usual self? To answer this question, let's start with the word deterioration and examine its definition. The Oxford Dictionary defines this word as the process of becoming progressively worse. there will be a lot of support workers who won't know what deterioration means. Let's not assume that everybody does, because it's not the case. Where does deterioration start and finish? How do we know when we should use the stop and watch tool? When an NDIS or aged care participant is visibly becoming unwell or just isn't their usual self. Usual self is a layman's way, way to show people on our front line who didn't come here to be an RN, who coming here just because it's their job. They may not be incredibly invested in it. We have some lovely support workers who do nothing but care. And then we have some who are just there. And it's going to be that way. It's always going to be that way, that we have people who come because it's their job. But if they can understand they're not their usual self, we may have a better chance of collecting the information from them that we need. Because we need them. They're our eyes and our ears. I had the best running services from engaging my frontline staff at meetings, making sure that they would give me some ridiculous things at staff meetings. But the fact is that they gave me things, and I would pick out which ones are of note and which ones I needed to act on. They were my eyes and ears. Why is it critical to pick up the early warning signs? If the person becomes well and it goes unnoticed for any length of time, it does increase that person's risk of requiring the avoidable hospital admission. Remember, hospitalizations can expose people to infections and can be quite anxiety-provoking and disruptive for them. A hospital admission is a transition. We talk about transitions as an actual indicator within the NDIS for sure, because it upsets everything. Usually people go a little bit backwards. A transition can really upset people's status quo emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So apart from the fact that they could acquire, a bacteria while they're there, and a lot of our clients, older and not older, are vulnerable, not as well as others that could, fight off those infections. It can damage organ or body systems that could lead to the death. So as happened with Anne-Marie Smith, the infection, had damaged her, had given her wounds, had damaged her internal organs as well, and she died. She died because her body shut down. Conditions and situations which can lead to an increase in a person's current impairment. So if deterioration is occurring, this is where you might see people, acting out as well. And people who are non-verbal will act out, as you have probably seen, with agitation, with anger, with disruption. They can act out in all sorts of ways. And it certainly diminishes a person's quality of life. How do we observe? Observation in support work requires us to access information via these senses. So eyesight. Does the person appear paler than usual, flushed in the face, sweating more than usual, a rash on their body, unable to move as they usually would, eyes not so bright, maybe glazed over, limping, not using their arm or hand like they would usually do? This is what we suggest you give everyone that you're onboarding. Are they restless, agitated, anxious, confused, drowsy, resisting your assistance to move them? That typical thing where you go to help an older person. I used to work in aged care, and they don't want to move and they freeze up. And, it's quite easy after a while to see, oh, somebody's in pain. Does the person look, they have a swelling in the face? Have they had a fall during the night? That means, or maybe they've got some sort of oral infection going on, maybe around their mouth or elsewhere on their face. So looking for these things. The hearing. Sometimes you can hear repetitive noises that you haven't heard previously. These can be things like teaching your support workers to look for wheezing or crackling sounds from someone's chest, the sneezing, the gurgling for swallowing, moaning, crying, or whimpering when people are in pain and they just can't speak about it. We get to touch. Do they feel hot, especially their forehead? Can you feel fluid or swelling? Might be in their legs, or, it could be anywhere, but, ankles and calves. Or when you touch the person, do they recoil or move away? is there, is there some pain associated with this? And smelling. Can you smell an unpleasant odor? Some bacteria have a very sickly sweet smell, while others can be quite strong and putrid. The smell from severe oral infection and from intestinal infections can be quite knock you over in its strength. If you notice a strong or foul odor, it could be the start of a wound developing or worsening. An infected tooth or gum, gingiva or mouth can also have a distinct smell. It's not pleasant. So how do we document? That's the most important thing here too. Next, let's look at that. If you have an identified change while caring for someone, using one of the tools, you can either circle that letter. As you remember, we had the stop and watch down the left-hand side of the page. You can circle the letter or you can tick the box. So we've got two different forms depending on how you, we actually got three that we have. Two different forms. They're the same form, but you can either tick or circle as you wish. And we've actually made a digital one too, okay? Because we know a lot of people like to do things digitally. Let's have a look at these following slides. So just as I showed you before, we've got the stop and watch. So this is where we can write some additional information. So we can tick it, we can circle it here. This is the circle one. So you can circle, oh yes, okay, they're different to usual, but I, circle that. So they circle this one and then write in there, try to get their own words into what's different about them. They're just not moving around as much as they wanted, or they usually watch a particular program and they're just totally disinterested or nodding off. Whatever these things might be, circle it and they can add a little bit of information. Okay. As an example, circled A, ate less, reduced appetite for 48 hours. Client didn't finish lunch or dinner for 2 days in a row. Now, that shouldn't go unnoticed. So this is a sort of example of a brief but clear description. Purple, team leader is going to look over this. Assess the residents yourself to ensure that the tool is completed well and accurately. So it does take a little bit of, implementing to start with. So and we see this auditing providers, if you allow staff for a long period of time to write nonsense and illogical notes, they will continue to give you nonsense and illogical notes. Okay, so check over them, teach them once, teach them well, and then you can do reviews at certain times, but try to do audits on their notes, because we see some nonsense and illogical notes which mean absolutely nothing. Some of them are unreadable and some of them are just nonsense, and they're just major non-conformities. Truly. Ensure that the support worker has documented why they are concerned. It's really important for you, if you're the manager, team leader or owner, that you're going to be looking at this. Ensure that they've said why they are concerned, and they have. The client didn't finish their lunch for 2 days in a row, lunch or dinner for 2 days in a row. So here's this part here. So in terms of the client's name, the date of the observation, the support worker's name, reported to, date and time, how did you report it, phone or in person. Email isn't permitted in this respect, because there has been a lot of evidence that it just wasn't done properly, and there's nothing you can do at a later date to go back and really rectify that situation. So it could and I think what also happened in the UK was that a lot of emails weren't even responded to because somebody wouldn't be in the office for a week. So it wasn't an acceptable avenue. The supervisor's response. This is probably as important as you've got observe, document, and communicate. if there's no response about that, you also could just throw it in the bin. Yeah. So we do need that other piece. The all pieces are important, or it isn't a system. It's only a system when there's all of these things working together, observing, documenting, communicating, and somebody overseeing. That is a full system of quality and safety. Okay. And then of course you're going to, cover yourself and say what's happened with this outcome summary. What have you done about it? Support worker documents client name, support worker name, they reported to, and the reporting method. I've already said this to you, so I think I'll just click through it. Document any actions and outcomes. Yeah, we've already said all this. So that is the PowerPoint. Now let me show you the tool, which I have open here. All right. So what we've made is a stop and watch competence. As I said to you, onboard them, test their competency at some point in time, retest their competency if they show an inability to pick it up quickly. I mean, it's a very simple process, but some people, do have trouble learning. So we have a competency assessment, very simple. It only asks for a few competencies to be met. But you'll detect on the first go whether somebody's picking it up, but give them opportunities to do it again, especially when they're new. And so that's this one. And then we've got, oopsies, don't want that. Sorry. We've got, that is not what we want. That was our competency assessment. We have a little poster which we give you, which you can use either for deploying staff, or you can have it in your onboarding packages. You can have it in your SIL homes. You can have it in your office. You can give them copies to have, in their manuals that you may give them, staff handbooks. And then we have a poster as well, which is made for A3. You can have it printed out and laminated. You can, what was this? This was the poster. Sorry, I am a bit of a dill sometimes. You can, have it laminated in A3 or A4, doesn't matter. Just remember what I said about part of educating people and maintaining quality systems is the repetition, being able to see things and it's repeated, not just saying it once and never speaking about it again. It needs to be, spoken about, in regular systems, in regular meetings, etc., to be able to manage these. And then there's the actual tool itself. So this is one that's got a tick box, but we've also developed one that is for those who like, just trying to find where I put it, digital things. It is here. Yeah. Here's the stop and watch in digital format, which we can provide you. So it's early warning sign tool. You can use a QR code, you can use a URL, you can have the QR code wherever you need to have it. People only need to QR it with their smartphone, put in client name, date and time that observation was made, support worker name. Seems different to usual. Yes. If yes, write the observation. Talks or communicates less. It's got, the range of things from the stop and watch tool. It will go through to your choice of forms. So some people use Microsoft Forms, others use Jot Forms. There's so many different ways to do it. But it's ready-made and you just duplicate it in the format that you want. So that is our detecting and communicating deterioration presentation and one suggested tool for doing so that is well used. Does anyone have any questions or feedback? I'll take that as a no. Alrighty. Well, if there are no questions or conversation or etc., we'll finish up. So thank you very much for coming. I hope you got something out of that. Pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thanks, everyone. Have a lovely weekend. Have a good one, everyone. And to everyone watching at home, enjoy the presentation and you know where to contact me.